Hi everyone, my name is Yingkai. Today I'm going to talk about making auctions robust to aftermarkets. This is a joint work with Moshe Babaioff, Nicole Immorlica, and Brandon Lucier. So our problem is about auction design, and more specifically, we consider a situation where a principal tries to allocate scarce resources to buyers with private values for those resources. And the goal of the principal is try to find the mechanism that maximize the allocation efficiency. There has been many classical solutions to this problem, which include second price auction, whether it's just a single item, or using uniform price auction, where there are multiple units of the identical items. One of the crucial features that are missing in those classical auction design is the presence of aftermarkets. In many practical situations, after the auction concludes, the buyers can actually try to resell the items they have acquired in the aftermarkets. And what's the impact of aftermarkets on the allocation efficiency? Note that giving any fixed allocation after the auction concludes, the resale always improves the efficiency. This is because in the resale, it can only happen that the item is transferred from low value buyers to high value buyers in order to satisfy their incentives. And this transaction always improves the efficiency. However, another effect of aftermarket is that the possibility of a resale can actually change buyers' behavior in the primary auction. And this change in behavior can actually have a detrimental effect on the overall equilibrium efficiency. So aftermarkets have ambiguous effects on the overall equilibrium efficiency, and the main goal of our paper is try to study this the efficiency design with aftermarkets. And note that which challenges in doing that is that in many applications in practice, actually the auction designer may not have control over the aftermarkets, or even worse, in some situations, the principal does not have even knowledge about the aftermarket. This is because for any pair of buyers, they can privately trade their items acquired in the auction with the terms that they privately negotiated. And the principal usually don't have exact knowledge about the detailed negotiated terms. And hence, our goal here for this talk is try to show you how to make the auction design with the efficiency guarantee that are robust to the exact detailed formats of the aftermarket. The main application we have in mind that actually motivates us to set this direct question is the carbon emission allowance auctions. Nowadays, the carbon dioxide actually contributes a large fraction to the greenhouse gas, and this is also a leading factor that causes the global warming. And nowadays in Europe, the organization of EU ETS actually designs mechanisms for selling the carbon emission allowances. And firms need to first purchase the licenses in order to legally emit the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The current mechanism that has been adopted by EU ETS is the uniform price auction. It has many benefits. For example, transparency means that at the end of auction, all the buyers know the prices are set for other buyers in order to win the item. And also it has the benefits of price discovery, meaning the prices that for selling these items actually change automatically as the realized demand of the buyers changes. And in this carbon emission auctions, usually there are aftermarkets that allows the people to retrieve their items acquired from central auction. And the additional benefits for allowing such aftermarkets is that it can provide insurance for uncertainty in demand. For example, if there is a firm that realizes he has more demand than he actually acquired in the prime auction, he is able to actually purchase more licenses in the aftermarket. But the additional existence of aftermarkets also raises a concern because it opens room for speculation. Speculators can try to game the system to make profit but this gaming of behavior can actually distort the allocation and leads to worse equilibrium outcome. And in our paper, we show that actually this is a realistic concern for the current system because the currently adopted uniform price auction is not going to be robust to aftermarkets, and speculation plays a crucial role here for the market breakdown. And in order to restore the efficient allocation outcome, we are going to propose 3 alternative solutions that provides robustness on efficiency outcomes. The 3 solutions are respectively smooth auctions, posted prices, and finally using uniform price auction, but with additional anomalous reserves. There are benefits and drawbacks for each of those solutions, and I'm going to elaborate on them later in this talk. But eventually, I'm going to show that our final recommendation is the last solution, which is using uniform price auction with anomalous reserves. Before moving on to the results, let me give you a little bit more detail on the exact model we are going to study. Here, the principal tries to sell M units of an identical good to n different buyers. Each buyer I is going to have a decreasing marginal variations for the M units, and these variations are drawn independently from distribution Fi. The whole market has 2 components, the primary auction and the aftermarkets. The principal can decide what happens in the primary auction, but does not have any control over the aftermarkets. More specifically, the principal can decide what are the allocation rule and the payment rule that can be implemented in the primary auction, and at the end of the primary auction, each individual buyer is going to privately observe his own allocation and his payment to the principal. And in the aftermarket, we are not going to make any structural assumption on the format of the aftermarkets. We are going to only impose 2 weak assumptions to ensure that the aftermarket is actually reasonable to exist in practice. The first assumption we made is budget balance, meaning that the payments in the aftermarket is just transfers from one buyer to another buyer. It means that there cannot exist any outside source who doesn't care about the licenses, wants to put money into the system and buy all the licenses from the existing buyers. And the second assumption we made is voluntary participation. It essentially ensures that all the agents have the option to just opt out the aftermarket and keep the whatever allocation he has acquired from the primary auction. And since this market structure has 2 stages, the solution concept we adopted is the perfect Bayesian equilibrium that ensures sequential rationality in the multi-stage games. But note that in our positive result, I'm going to show you in a bit, all of those robustness results holds even for the weaker solution concept of Bayesian Nash equilibrium. Here in our problem, the goal of the principle is to try to maximize the allocation efficiency. With this in mind, the measure of efficiency we adopt is the price of anarchy. For any maximum M, the price of anarchy is defined as the maximum ratio between the optimal welfare and the worst case equilibrium welfare given the maximum M, while the maximum is taking over all possible distribution over variations of all the agents. So using this measure of efficiency, let's first look at how the currently adopted mechanism, which is uniform price auction, performs on this measure. In this uniform price auction, buyers are going to submit their bids for each additional unit they want to win from the auction, and then the items are sold to the M highest bids using the market clearing price, which is said to be equal to the M plus 1's highest bid. From the previous work, we know that if we just try to run this uniform price auction without aftermarkets, the allocation efficiency is actually quite good. The price of anarchy is just at most E over E minus 1. And this is under the assumption that all buyers are choosing undominated strategies, which is very reasonable because usually in practice, we don't observe that players are choosing dominated strategy. Okay. And this shows that actually uniform price auction works well when applied in isolation. And this is probably one of the justification why it's currently adopted in the EU ATS. However, we show that the market can break down when there are aftermarkets. In the worst case, the price of anarchy when there are aftermarkets can actually be as large as the order of log M, where M is the number of items that the principal tries to sell. Okay. Here is an example that illustrates when the market fails and the price of anarchy is quite large. In this example, there are three buyers. Buyer A and buyer B are actually buyers that value the item. Buyer A has high value for the first two items, but zero for the rest of the item. Buyer B has high value for the first unit, and identical, relatively lower value C of B for the rest of the units. While for the buyer C, he is a speculator. He doesn't value the licenses. He just tries to buy from auction and resell in the aftermarket to make some profit. Due to the limit of time, I'm not going to tell you about the detailed construction of the equilibrium, but very briefly speaking, what can happen in equilibrium is that the speculator can make profit from making very high bets in the primary auction and resell it to other buyers for profit in the aftermarket. And in order for the speculator to maximize his profit, he is trying to set a relatively high price in the aftermarket, which can distort the allocation efficiency and lead to low equilibrium welfare. Okay. This illustrates that the aftermarket can be quite detrimental to the allocation efficiency when running the uniform price auction. One natural question to ask is whether this construction of equilibrium is reasonable. The concern might be that, for example, in single item auction, when running second price, it is expected that the allocation outcome is efficient, but there could exist some equilibrium where low value agent make high bids such that the item is allocated to the low value bidder with the low equilibrium welfare. But in that example, the agents are using dominated strategies. And it is important to check whether this is the case in our equilibrium construction. And we are going to show you that that's not the case. One thing we can observe in uniform price auction is that the buyers may strictly benefit from shading their bids. This is the case for buyer A and B here. Both buyers actually are going to win one item in the primary auction. They deliberately choose to make low bids for the rest of the unit in order to win the item with low prices so that their utility is maximum. And the justification for the speculator to make high bids, even though he does not have any value for the item, is that there are actually complementarities in the revenue for the speculator in the aftermarkets for among winning the items. This suggests that, so what happens here is that for this speculator, he can have a large revenue only if he actually wins a lot of items in the primary auction. If he loses even just one item in the auction, then the revenue of this speculator in the aftermarket can be significantly reduces. And the justification for him to making such high bets is just to ensure that he can actually win a lot of items for resale in the aftermarket. And this strategy is not a dominant strategy. And combining these 2 points, we can see that actually our constructed equilibrium is actually very reasonable. This further confirms the crucial issue of non-robustness of uniform price auction when there are aftermarkets. In order to resolve this welfare issue, we are going to propose 3 solutions. First solution we are going to talk about is the smooth auction. An example of smooth auction is using the discriminatory auction. In discriminatory auction, buyers still submit their bids for each additional units they want to win in the primary auction, and the items are still sold to them highest bid. The main difference is that the prices are now set to be equal to each individual buyer's marginal bid for the item. This discriminatory auction is a special case of what we call more generally the smooth auctions, and we see a mechanism as lambda mu smooth if there exists a dividend strategy for each buyer I with large enough utility expressed as in this following expression. I'm not going to give you details on this expression, but intuitively what it suggests is that in equilibrium, the loss in welfare by deviating from the efficient allocation can always be partially offset by the auction revenue. This ensures the overall equilibrium allocation efficiency. And as we have seen from previous work, any smooth auctions that are run without aftermarket have low price organically, which is at most mu over lambda. And in our paper, we show that this result is actually robust when there are aftermarkets, meaning that if the principal runs a primary auction that is lambda mu smooth, then the price organically of the combined market is also at most mu over lambda. The idea for proving this is actually quite straightforward. We can just simply view the combined market as a very large mechanism where agents need to make sequential decisions. And we only need to find a very good deviation strategy for each individual buyer to show that this large mechanism is actually lambda mu smooth. This deviation structure is constructed as follows. The agent can choose to follow the same deviation strategy as if the primary auction is run in standalone without aftermarkets. And after they get the allocation, in the aftermarket, they can just choose not to trade. And we can directly show that this ensures a large enough utility for the buyer, and hence the whole large mechanism is lambda mu smooth. Okay. And applying the existing result, this smoothness of large mechanism implies the low price of energy. There are some additional benefits of actually adopting the smooth auction. So in addition to the concern of aftermarkets, in many applications, the buyer can also to invest to actually learn about the other buyer's value and make bidding strategies accordingly. And we show that if the principal uses smooth auctions, then the combined market also have constant price of energy, even with the presence of this exponential behavior. But certainly there are some drawbacks of using this mechanism. One of the drawbacks is that it has very complex strategic optimization requirements for each individual buyer. And if we want to run this in practice, it would make it very difficult for small firms to participate because those small firms does not have research powers to estimate market demand and make the optimal bidding decisions. So this is the drawback of smooth auctions. And next, I'm going to tell you about our second proposed solution. This solution is have very simple auction formats. Here, the principal just try to set marginal prices for each unit that he wants to sell, and the buyers are interacted sequentially, and the buyers can make the purchase decisions until the items runs out. There has been many works in the literature that provide robust welfare guarantees without aftermarket. But in our paper, we show that not all those prices works with the existence of aftermarkets. Due to the limit of time, I'm not going to tell you about why those other approach fails. Instead, I'm going to tell you a successful approach, which is using balanced price. The definition of balanced price makes the requirement that first, the prices should be high enough, meaning that price paid for any allocation should be at least the loss in optimal welfare due to losing those items. And this is law bounded up to a constant effect, multiplicative constant effect. This ensures that given these balanced prices, whenever the agent's purchased item, it always generates a large enough welfare to the overall society. And also, prices should be low enough, means that the total price of any allocation that remains feasible after allocating X should be at most the optimal welfare achievable with items that are not allocated. This ensures that given these prices, the remaining item can still be sold to the agent with reasonable welfare guarantee. And a price factor is balanced if both conditions are satisfied. And we show that using those balanced prices for any aftermarket, the price of any of this combined market is always a constant. The main reason why we can generalize the results from auctions without aftermarket to situation with upstream aftermarket is because the prices are said to be large enough. This means that whenever an unit is sold to a speculator in the auction, in order to rationalize the speculator's behavior, this item must be resold to another buyer in the aftermarket with high enough value. So eventually this item is going to end up with someone who values a lot for the item. This ensures that the overall efficiency is quite high, regardless of the aftermarket. And we also show that the balanced price actually exists when buyers have decreasing marginal values. And there are additional benefits of using this. One of them is that it has low strategic requirements. The buyers just need to compare their marginal value for the item with the marginal price. But also there are some drawbacks of using these post-pricing mechanisms. First, it's a huge change compared to the current solutions, so there might be legislation challenges for actually adopting this. And also it lacks the benefits of price discovery because the balanced prices are set in advance and it cannot change according to the realized market demand. And therefore, we are going to move on to our final solution, which is what we recommend for implementing in practice. So the solution is still using the uniform price option, but the buyer can only win the item if his marginal bid is above the reserve prices. And we show that if we use the balanced prices as the reserve price to the agents, actually giving any aftermarket, the price of any of this combined market can always be ensured to be a constant. And in addition, we show that actually an enormous reserve is sufficient when all the buyers have decreasing marginal revenue, decreasing marginal values. This enormity reserves ensures fairness amongst all the buyers that participate in the game. We also see that this proposed solutions have many additional benefits. It's a minor change compared to the current system because we only need to introduce an enormous reserve. It inherits many benefits from the uniform price auction. For example, the price discovery, because the price can be adjusted according to the relative demand. And finally, we know that in order to find a good enough reserve prices, the principal needs to estimate the optimal welfare for allocating the item optimally. But we show that even if the estimation is slightly incorrect, and we use the incorrect solution for calculating the reserve, the welfare loss due to the error is actually quite small. So that's all for my talk. Thanks everyone for attending.